So, very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to this mosque. This is, first of all, I would like to tell you, it's a quite historical mosque. It's 300 years old and it has gone through a number of renovations. That's why it's looking so big and so nice. And Imam Muhibullah Nadwi, he is the leader of the mosque. He leads the prayer over here and he is a very supportive and a very encouraging person for all of us. So I would like to thank Muhibullah Saab for allowing us to come here and have a brief session with all of you. So to begin with, Muhibullah Saab demonstrated the Islamic form of prayer before all of you. So in Islam, in Arabic, namaz or prayer is called salat. And it is called namaz in Persian or in Urdu. So here in the Indian subcontinent, we generally call the Islamic prayer as namaz. We don't generally use the Arabic word salat. So the prayer, the Islamic prayer which Imam Saab performed, it can be offered anywhere. You can offer it at home, you can offer it outside home, but generally it is performed in an organized way inside the mosque in congregation. So the mosque is generally used for three purposes. First of all, the Arabic word for mosque is masjid, and masjid literally means a place for self-prostration. So the mosque is used for three basic purposes. The first is that you can come here, the believer can come here to read the book of God, the Quran. So you will see that several copies of the Quran are stacked over there. So every mosque provides worshippers with copies of the Quran and translations in different languages. So a person can come here to read the book of God. Secondly, one can come here just to remember God in silence, because the atmosphere of the mosque is generally very spiritual and peaceful. So you can come here to pause and reflect about God, about life, about death. And the third most important purpose is, of course, the prayer, which is performed in a gathering. The Islamic form of prayer begins with ablutions. Now, what is ablutions? Ablutions means washing the hands, the feet, and the face with water. So you enter the namaz by performing ablutions. Now, there is a very spiritual perspective to ablutions. There is spiritual wisdom behind ablutions. And that is when you are washing the external parts of your body, you also simultaneously pray to God to wash away all your sins, all your impurities, all the evils which are part of your personality. So it is not just a kind of external act. You also keep remembering God while performing ablution so that you can become a purified personality. So I must also mention that the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, has also taught us that while we are performing ablutions, we are using water. But we should be very careful in using water. We should conserve water. So there is a very famous saying of the Prophet of Islam that do not waste water even if you are beside a flowing river. So the very first phrase which the worshipper says when he begins namaz is Allahu Akbar. So Allahu Akbar means God is great. I'm sure all of you must have heard the phrase Allahu Akbar. It's very common and it's even misused. So Allahu Akbar means God is great, but implicit in it is also the fact that I am not great. So it's a teaching of humility and modesty. And we must understand that this humility and modesty is not only with respect to God, it's actually with respect to other human beings. Because that is when our humility is actually tested. Because anybody would be humble before God, but being humble before other human beings is the real test. So the major part of the Islamic prayer, as you would have observed, was when the Imam Sahib was standing and reading out verses from the Quran. So that is the predominant part of namaz. And we read out passages from the Quran to remind ourselves of the divine teachings, such as self-control, such as patience, such as forgiveness. So Muslims are supposed to pray 5 times a day. And this 5 times prayer is not just a robotic ritual which you have to perform and feel satisfied that you're done with it. You're actually supposed to remind yourself that are you even following these Islamic divine spiritual teachings? And if you are not following them, then you have to introspect every time you read namaz and renew your pledge that you will actually follow it from now on. So the last part of the prayer is when the worshipper turns to his right and then turns to his right and then turns to his left, and he says Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Now this means may God's peace and blessings be upon you. So in a symbolic way, the believer is actually addressing the whole of humanity by turning to his left and turning to his right and telling the whole of humanity that I am a peaceful member of society and your property, your honor, your life is safe from me. So I'll end with this, that when a believer performs the prayer in the mosque, he learns about the spiritual things which he has to adopt in life. So the spirituality which he learns in the mosque should also be reflected outside in his dealings with people. So if you're praying inside the mosque but you do not adopt the character of namaz outside the mosque, then that means that you're not really following the spirit of namaz. So namaz is not merely just a form of bowing down, prostrating, kneeling down. You have to inculcate the teaching of namaz inside yourself, and it will reflect in your character, in your dealings with people, and it must reflect. That will be the true namaz.